So this is actually a very good question. How many vines should I attach to a sphagnum moss pole? So the user goes on to mention that they've either got one too many or one too few, and it just doesn't look right if they've only got a single vine on there. So let's answer that. So now if we pop over to my moss poles, you will notice that most of them have only got a single vining plant on them, except these Siltepecanas, which have 3 vines in each one. Now ultimately you've got to ask yourself, what do you want at the end of this process? Do you want a moss pole that's covered in leaves and looking like a bush, or do you want a moss pole that's got one vine that's got really thick vine with really big leaves like this? Because it is important to remember that these vines get really bloody thick. This is a thick boy vine supporting a big boy leaf. As long as you remember that with those stackable moss poles, it is always possible to chop when it reaches the top of the 2nd or 3rd moss pole and separate those plants off. You might do a bit of root damage, but with them being little plastic sheeting, you can probably just cut all around there without doing too much damage to the roots, and then just tease them into a new one, so you can have one pot that originally had 4 or 5 vines in them. Once it gets to a certain stage and a certain thickness, you can then move them onto single moss poles so that you've got a thicker vine and it doesn't look so dorky.